Hey, how's it going, guys? Like Butter here. Welcome back to another Division video. Today I got some information on PTS 3, which is week 3 of the PTS for 1.6.1. We're going to be talking about a couple minor changes. There wasn't too much in this patch, but there was one huge thing that really needed to be tested, so they wanted to go ahead and put forth a third week of the PTS, but it seems like this will be the last week unless something, goes terribly wrong, some major bug needs a patch. But for the most part, it looks like 1.6.1 is coming closer and closer. So with this being the last week of the PTS, I'd say we can expect 1.6.1 in about something around like 2 to 3 weeks from today. So it's going to be within the end of the May range, which is when they wanted to release it. And also ETF is going to be happening very soon as well, which is good because that means 1.7 is also creeping near. So the ETF usually happens quite long before the PTS does. It's usually like 3 to 4 weeks after the PTS that they do or after the ETF that they end up doing the PTS. But if I were to guess, I would say that 1.7 is probably going to come out somewhere between the end of June and early July. I don't think it will come out as late as August, seeing that they do want to put another update out towards the end of the year. But I think that we're nearing closer and closer to some big content drops for the division. So what I want to talk about today are the changes for PTS 3. So we're still talking 1.6.1 here, which is a quality of life update, much like 1.4 was. Although 1.4, they reworked a lot of gear sets and completely revamped the way the game worked. 1.6.1 is basically a bug fixing update along with some minor quality of life changes. So one of the biggest changes in 1.6.1 is loadouts. Now, loadouts are absolutely amazing. It makes it so that you can make a certain gear set or a build and keep that build and switch to it at any point in time. One thing that kind of held me back from trying a lot of different builds was the fact that it was so tedious to switch all your gear, all your mods, all your weapons, all your weapon attachments. It just kind of became a little bit too much to feel like it'd be fun to try different builds. You can't really try a different build if you're, going to have to switch everything back because you're not sure if it works. Now you can try a build, and if you don't like it, you can instantly, with one click of a button, go back to your old build. So one thing that kind of was a bummer about this was that you couldn't take items out of your stash in order to put them in your build. So you were kind of limited to the amount of things that you could have in your inventory, since the inventory space has always been kind of a problem on the division. It's only been like 60 slots. So what they did, which is going to help this feature greatly, is they doubled the backpack size. They got rid of the RNG drops, which means like it's not going to be like from 50 to 53-ish. Every backpack from level 30 is going to drop with 110 backpack capacity. So what this is going to do is it's going to give you a lot more space to pick up items and to try different builds. I'm very, very hopeful that in 1.7 we're going to receive a lot of new gear sets, a lot of new gear. So even though it may not seem like a big deal now because we're still playing with the same gear that we've been playing with for months, I promise in the future this feature is going to be fantastic. It's going to be so awesome when picking up new items and trying new builds. It's going to be 100% necessary. So big ups to the massive team for making this change in such a short amount of time. I mean, this is one of my biggest pet peeves about like the loadouts, was just there just wasn't enough space to pick stuff up and to keep stuff in your inventory. And if you had multiple builds, you couldn't carry much gear at all. So doubling the backpack space is going to make it possible so that you can keep those builds in your inventory, but also be able to pick up new items, as well. Another change that was made that wasn't really a huge one for me, but probably a huge one for people that have been like, farming exotics every single week. I already have the builds and the exotics that I need from like 1.5. So for me, getting exotic caches really isn't that big of a deal. But for a lot of people that may have started playing like later in 1.5 or just don't have the time to grind like I do, may still be looking for certain exotic pieces. And those exotic pieces now are going to be a little bit easier to get, considering you will not get the Ninja Bike messenger bag to drop anymore. There's a few times, and it happened to me even a few times, where we got exotic caches and we played this big long legendary mission that took 45 minutes, and then you get a Ninja Bike messenger bag which has a useless talent that no one wants to use, and it's kind of like the troll item of the division at this point. And now it will no longer drop in an exotic cache or in the open world, so you guys don't need to worry about that, getting the Ninja Bike backpack anymore until they find a better talent to give it. The reason it's so useless is because it makes it so that you drop one less item and you don't lose Dark Zone experience on death. Well, they changed it so that you don't lose Dark Zone experience on death anyways, so essentially it has a completely useless talent. So hopefully in the future, and they did say this, that they will be reworking it. They're not sure if it's going to be retroactive or not, but they said just in case it will be, it probably wouldn't hurt to hold on to those Ninja Bike backpacks, because you don't want to just delete your Ninja Bike backpacks and then find out in the future that they reworked it to have a really super useful, awesome talent, and then have to regrind for that specific exotic, even though you got it like 2 or 3 times in 1.5. So that's going to be something that's going to help out people kind of, that's one better chance you have at getting the exotics you want, and one that nobody really wants. So Ninja Bike backpack will no longer drop. There was also some bug fixes. Now, unfortunately, there was a couple of bug fixes that I was hoping to see in the patch notes that I do not see here. One of those being the movement speed on the defensive vault. I've been stressing this for like the last 3 weeks. I don't understand why the movement speed on the defensive vault isn't working. I really wish that the developers would be a little bit more upfront about why this feature was either taken away or why it wasn't, working, because without the movement speed, the defensive vault is very, very underwhelming, very, very useless. Because the reason defensive vault was so good was because obviously the large amount of mitigation, but it makes you very versatile when you're moving at such large speeds. You can run behind cover, you can disengage, and the defensive vault is supposed to be a disengage ultimate, which means if you see a team run up to you and they pop tactical link and they're popping their skills to get damage boost, defensive vault is supposed to kind of offset that. You're supposed to pop it, gives you a lot of movement speed, you can run around, you take less damage, and you can basically wait out that engagement that another team used on you. Well, right now the defensive vault really doesn't do that, and if there's some sort of like problems, I know that in the past when they tried adding that new talent to Banshee where you moved faster when you were out of combat, if they ran into some sort of technical issues or some sort of performance issues when having the defensive vault active, maybe in DZ North, since that's the only thing that's been added since 1.6. We need to know that. We need to know that, okay, the defensive vault isn't getting its movement speed buff back, or the defensive vault is getting its movement speed back. We need to know, because if defensive vault doesn't get its movement speed back, it needs some sort of buff, and I really hope it's not a buff within mitigation, because all of the alts kind of give you 2 different ways or 2 different things to kind of help you. For example, the medical alt can revive you or it can heal you, so it can be used in 2 different ways. The damage alt can be used in 2 different ways. It can be used for extreme, rate of fire, or it can be used for a damage boost. And then like the defensive vault just gives you mitigation. Like, it needs to give you something else. Like, the movement speed is what made the defensive vault as strong as it was. It's a very, very good disengage ultimate that needs to get its movement speed back. And if it can't get it back, we need to know. you know, Massive and Red Storm need to communicate that to let people know why that this defensive vault hasn't had movement speed for the last like month and a half, or however long 1.6 has been now. It's been like it's been like 3 months now. What am I saying? 2 months, 2.5 months, something like that. But yeah, we need to know why the defensive vault isn't getting fixed. Another thing that I saw quite frequently in the PTS that I hope will get fixed is that the medical ult was also not picking up teammates sometimes, and then you couldn't revive them, and it's a super annoying game-breaking bug because a lot of situations, especially if you're in like late rounds in an incursion or you're really close to beating an incursion, it's very frustrating to have that ult not work. I noticed that it happens a lot around status effects. I think status effects has something to do with it. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that ults should always work on you, even if you're under status effects. That used to be a huge problem back in the day when you pop defensive ult. If you had a teammate that was on fire, especially with fire bullets, you wouldn't get that bonus. And I always think that was a bug. I never thought that that was intended. And if it is intended, then it's causing some problems. And I would just remove that from the game entirely so that we get rid of those issues where, you know, somebody's under status effects, they get downed, and then you can't revive them with metal. I don't understand why it happens, but it's super frustrating. But most of the other bugs seem to have been fixed, but those ultimates have such long cooldowns. We need to make sure that those ultimates get fixed. So those are most of the changes. There were some small bugs like, you know, with the new Nimble, you could basically run, and if you're getting down before getting to the cover, it would revive you. That's been fixed. Also, a couple of the bugs with the DZ landmarks. There was also a collision area in Coward's Corner. You know, support station buff was staying on players after running out of the you know, area of effect. So that was fixed. Fixed with defense, where a mod bonus would apply despite what gear set talent it states. I don't know what that means, but sure. And a couple other bugs that you guys can check out. I always put a link in the description of these videos down below so you guys can either read along or, you know, just go over stuff that I may have missed or wasn't, you know, thorough enough about. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and let me know what you guys think of the backpack change, and let me know what you guys think about them not fixing the ults. I think that needs to be pushed way up the importance meter, because ultimates matter the most, in my opinion, because they're so important to either a gunfight or to, you know, your team in need. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop the video a like, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.
Agent, if you can find the crane controls, drop that tank someplace safe. That should do it, Agent. Solid work. Yes, good work.
I'm not holding back for anyone.